Has this ever happened to you?
I'm gonna freaking fail my chemistry test! What even is an anion? Like, are they edible? Like, I don't even like anions. And I don't even know who he is. Like, who even is a Tom?
Well, look no further. This video will be on atoms. Not a Tom, like, I don't... Who is this guy? Well, the first question that we have to answer is, who even thought of the idea of atoms?
Democritus lived in the early 5th century BCE, and he proposed that everything was either made of uncuttable atoms or empty void. Atom comes from the Greek word atomos, meaning indivisible.
Plato, who lived in the mid to late 5th century BCE, he believed, opposed Democritus, that the world was created from 4 elements: air, earth, fire, and water.
Aristotle lived approximately from 330 BCE, and he argued that the quote-unquote elements were not made of atoms, but change made them happen, and it was more like transformation instead of rearrangement.
And so, the accepted idea during this time, all the philosophers' ideas were considered speculation because there was no experimental evidence to support either Democritus or Aristotle's idea, or Plato's idea, even though Aristotle's idea was more widely accepted.
So the law of conservation of mass was created in 1789, and it stated that mass is neither created or destroyed during ordinary chemical reactions, or physical changes. A total mass of reactants and products within a chemical reaction remains constant, and this was formulated by Antoinette Lavoisier.
The law of definite proportions was proven by Joseph Louis Proust in 1799, which basically said that a chemical compound contains the same elements in exactly the same proportions, regardless of the size or sample of the source of the compound.
The law of multiple proportions was formulated in 1808 by John Dalton, who also formulated Dalton's atomic theory. If 2 or more different compounds are composed of the same element, then the ratio of the masses combined with first element is always the same as of small whole numbers. And the laws of the conservation of mass and definite proportions were used to establish this, and the 3 in turn worked to form Dalton's atomic theory.
And now, modern atomic theory. In 1897, Joseph John Thomson performed cathode ray tube experiments, which led to the discovery of his electrons. And his conclusions were that atoms must have positive and negative charges, and through his conclusions, he developed the plum pudding model. And later, in 1932, James Chadwick experimented by bombarding beryllium with alpha particles, and from that, radioactive particles were produced, which led to the discovery of the neutron. And his conclusions were that they have no charge, and they have a mass of approximately 1 AMU. Later came Millikan's oil experiments. In 1909, Robert A. Millikan performed the oil drop experiment, in which he sprayed drops of oil into a chamber surrounded by an electric field, and the drop would move up and down based off the field, and his conclusions led to finding the charge of an electron. Finally, in 1909, Ernest Rutherford performed the gold foil experiment, in which he fired a beam of alpha particles at a sheet of gold foil. Most of the particles passed through the foil, but 1 in 20,000 particles were deflected back towards the beam, which led to the thought that positive charge in an ion was concentrated in one area within the atom, and he called these protons, and they had the mass of 1 AMU. He made his own model, which had a central nucleus consisting of protons, and the electrons existed in a cloud surrounding the nucleus.
Isotopes are atoms that are of the same element, but they have different masses. The mass of the atom changes as the number of neutrons varies between the atom, and some isotopes of an element are more stable than others and therefore more commonly found in nature. The average atomic mass of an element is the sum of all the masses of its isotopes, each multiplied by the natural abundance. An element can have differing numbers of neutrons in its nucleus, but it will always have the same number of protons.
Ions. And what are ions? Ions are charged atoms, and atoms have an unequal number of protons and electrons, and the charge on the atom results from the loss or gain of electrons. A cation is a positively charged atom, and an anion is a negatively charged atom. Each proton carries a 1 plus charge, and each electron carries a 1 minus charge. So that's it! If you fail your CA, you can blame a Tom.